Hey everyone, I want to talk to you about my turtle tank. I have a Western painted turtle that was born in March of 2019. I named her Medusa. At a little over a year old, her shell is 3.5 inches. I want to describe everything that is in my indoor tank. First, I want to tell you that it took me almost a full year to get everything as it should be for her. I researched beforehand, but it just wasn't enough. I joined a few forums and I learned some amazing things. I originally was using an incandescent bulb because it said full spectrum. It was imperative that I needed to change her lighting. Remember that metabolic bone disease is a huge problem that comes from poor husbandry, like inadequate lighting. She was super lucky that my huge mistake didn't result in poor health and an abnormal shell. I also made the mistake of getting a starter kit from Walmart, and that was basically junk. Whatever reptile or amphibian you get, just opt for buying things separately. It is so expensive to replace everything when you realize that most of it was unnecessary or wrong. So with that, I think we can start with the size of my tank. It's a 37-gallon top fin, actually a tank for fish. It's an aquarium tank, but it was the only one that would fit on this specific stand that my husband built. You got to remember though, when you have a tank like this, they need 10 gallons for every inch of their shell. So if you have a 1-inch shelled turtle, it needs 10 gallons and so on. It's easier to anticipate how big your turtle's going to be so you can be prepared to have the correct housing. The average size of a Western painted turtle is 10 to 12 inches. There's a lot of ways to get the correct tank if you're on a budget. You can search the internet, a lot of cheap, good finds if you find them. You can use plastic totes, kiddie pools, stock tanks, but you need to be able to accommodate everything you need to make sure your turtle is happy and healthy. Some of these ideas can be used inside or outside, but I just want to focus specifically on indoor setups. I'm going to talk about lighting now. Each turtle is in a different Ferguson zone. This classification explains the amount of UV light that's needed. It uses the sunbeam method to determine the suggested ultraviolet index, or UVI. Painted turtles are between zones 3 and 4, so their UVI is 2.9 to 7.4, which translates to a 10.0 UV bulb. I'm going to digress and just get down to it here. I am using an Exoterra 26 watt 10.0 UVB compact. This wattage and strength are the most beneficial way to utilize a compact bulb. Another option is the ReptiSun 26 watt 10.0 compact or the ReptiSun 10% T5. There's also the 10% Arcadia 23 watt or the Arcadia 12% T5. You can use a mercury vapor lamp, but you need to remember that they are super powerful and they're not ideal for most setups. Remember that when you are placing a UV bulb, that anything you place between it is gonna make the UV bulb less effective. So it's better to have the bulb directly facing in the tank. I do not have that capability, so mine is on top of a mesh screen, which is better than having it on plastic or glass because that completely eliminates the purpose of the UV light. At least with mesh, she's still getting some of it. I also want you to remember that each bulb that you pick for UV, there's a certain number of inches that it needs to be away from the turtle shell. They also lose potency over time. The average time to change them out is 6 to 12 months, but that depends on the brand and type of bulb that you used. This is the most up-to-date information that I have for this specific zone. And I want to talk about heat now because it's just as important. When you're choosing your bulb, You got to think about the number of turtles that are basking, the size of your tank, and the size of the basking area. You also need to be mindful, again, of the distance from the turtle shell for whatever wattage you choose. I've used the Zoomid 100 watt Repti basking spot lamp. Excuse me, some of these names are so long you can barely spit them out. I've also used the Exoterra 100 watt daylight basking bulb. There was no difference in the amount of heat they put out. It was just a different price point. And for me, for all the tank setups that I have, I want to get them the most efficient setup, but I don't want to have to spend money just because it's this brand or that brand. But there is always a difference between brands, but sometimes it is just the price point. These lights that I mentioned, they worked for me, but they're, you know, some of them aren't going to work for you. But the only thing that matters with this lighting is that your turtle is healthy, it grows right, and it has an awesome quality of life. If you provide the right lighting, that plays a major role for all of those things. Let's move right along to filtration. She's actually using the filter as a little stand right now, just hanging out. Turtles are super messy, and your water quality and cleanliness depend on the type of filter that you use. Internal filters are good for hatchlings because they require less water. This also gives your little hatchling a chance to build up their swimming skills. When Medusa was younger, I used different Tetra Whisper filters. They have different sizes, and they were really good. They did the job. The price was good. You can get the bio bags that you can make, so that's a lot cheaper. You just pour the carbon in the bag and clip it and put it in the filter. They also have other internal filters that are rated for bigger tanks, but a lot of people opt for external canister filters just because they provide more room for swimming, and you really are going to have an awesome, clean, quality, good, it's just better. External canister filters, from what I heard, are just better in a lot of ways. But they also have a learning curve, and the price is higher. So it's best to shop around and, you know, ask people for their experiences with these canister filters if that's what you're gonna do. I might have to help her. She's stuck behind that cord. Oh, no, she got it. I'm gonna have to fix that. Jeez Louise. You know, and she is a little rascal. All turtles that I've seen, it's like they have a death wish. They do the things, they have to know that this stuff is dangerous. I mean, obviously it's the owner's job to make sure that, you know, the tank and the environment isn't dangerous. But let's get back to the filter. I love watching her. I hope you're having fun watching her too. The filter that you see is a marineland polishing internal filter. It's really strong, it's easy to set up, you can fully submerge it, and it has two filtering options. You can use the carbon, or you can use the actual polishing filter. It does a super job. Right now I have the carbon in there, and it's clear, as you can see, but there's a lot of micro particles where if you get real close you can see them, and I know with the polishing filter that kind of takes away some of that. So I'll be doing that when this activated carbon goes out in about 2 weeks here. You need to change that every month because it loses its potency like other things. It's really, really important to remember that the filter you have needs to be rated for 2 to 3 times the amount of gallons that your tank is. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, you need a filter rated for 20 to 30 gallons. You have to really watch out though with some of these filters. They have a really strong suction power, and if your turtle's too little, they can get sucked into that. So just be mindful of the size of your turtle and the size of the filter that you're getting. I want to talk about basking now. Having an appropriate basking area is absolutely mandatory. The turtle needs a place to dry off, rest, soak up some heat. I have a floating basking platform in the back, and then you see the stationary extended ramp platform. You can also get basking rocks. You can make above tank basking areas. They sell those as well. There's a lot of DIY options that are really amazing and super cost efficient. But what about maintaining water and basking area temperature? That's really important as well because it affects their appetite and their health. You can get an analog or digital thermometer. I have a little analog one. It's a little circle. You can kind of see it up there. It's Exoterra, and it has Celsius and Fahrenheit, but sometimes I'll put like a digital one in there to make sure that it's reading properly, just because digital is more accurate. You can get a temp gun too, which is, you know, the cream of the crop. If you want to get one of those, boom, bam, you're good. They also have, you know, those strips that you put on the tank and it has the temperature. So there's a lot of options for that as well. But no matter what you get, just make sure that you're keeping an eye on it. Next, I want to talk about decorations and substrate. Decorations are really aesthetically pleasing to us, but plastic and silk plants are going to get eaten at some point and it's going to cause impaction. That's the same with substrate. Play sand and large river rocks are super awesome because they can burrow, they can hunt for food, they can move them around. In general, it's just good enrichment. Small pebbles and things will get ingested at some point. Turtles will eat anything, and that will also cause impaction. I had a bare bottom tank for most of her life, and it was super easy to clean, but it was kind of boring, and I know she gets bored too, so I put these rocks in, and she moves them around, and she hunts for her food. Like protein day, you know, you put the worms in, and they'll sink to the bottom, and it was protein day today, and she's been looking for her silkworms all day long, even though they're gone, like coming up to the tank, hey mom, you know, protein day should be every day, you know. But right now, she is up past her bedtime. Her light timer goes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 12 hours is ideal for turtles, 10 to 12 hours. But she wanted to be on camera. I wanted to make sure you could see her in action because no one wants to see my ugly mug. We're here for the turtles, right? I hope you really, really enjoyed this. I'm sending good vibes your way. Have a good night, and I will see you next time.